Hey guys, this is Vic from Grasping the Market and welcome to our market briefing. Today we had no change on the larger time frame as we traded back inside the previous week range. However, on the daily, we did attempt to break lower from the 3-day balance range that we discussed in the last briefing, and actually that attempt was rejected. We closed partially the gap left last Thursday, but at the end of the day, the balancing area up here held and the gap held, and now we have held the excess, daily excess, which has to be confirmed in the coming sessions, but we are back above that early attempt. So we are now we will become a 4-day balancing range. I think that given that the gap is holding this daily rejection, which was had a little bit of a short squeeze triggered by news and also an inventory help towards the end of the session. But if that holds and this daily excess gets confirmed, I think the odds are good that now we will probe the upper side of the range. So looking at the market profile, we had a slightly short overnight inventory, and as we opened, we immediately drove outside yesterday's low and range with no hesitation. It took Thursday's low and started eating the gap. But you will notice that after the B and C periods and D, they were struggling to the downside. So apparently here the market was getting a little bit too short, judging by the inability to extend further. And then some news, positive trade news, came on the wires, and that created a short squeeze that pushed us back into yesterday's range. Now the initial news, obviously, when all the shorts have to bail, that creates the sudden move, but the news itself was not very it didn't have a lot of content, so it slowly started grinding back down. But this is the important part. If you broke from inside to the outside, then back inside, you leave excess, and now you're rotating back. At this point, you have a rotational day. When you have a rotational day, you see that there was an attempt here to rotate on H, which was, some buyers stepped in and pushed back up. Then on J, you rotated back, and this time, not only you took the halfback area, but you also took the H low and gave nothing back. K period opened about here. So at this point, you have a strong rotation, and the odds are good that you're gonna target this weak structure because you have a weak low and you have very little excess. Now, what happens here is that the overnight was around 65.50, if I remember correctly. K probed lower, but you will notice that K didn't reach the origin or the low of that short squeeze. And then it started going back into the overnight. And to the point that it gave everything that it had obtained to the downside, it gave it back and actually L tagged the K high. So at this point, you have a failed rotation that, if it was a rotational day, it shouldn't have been any issue targeting a very weak structure and possibly extending lower. But at this point, you have evidence that the rotation failed because K gave back all it has gained to the downside, and then you had an extra 2 TPOs close to the middle, and you're back inside. So you're back inside, a wider profile, you left excess, and at this point you are back inside the overnight. So at this point is when I notice the rotation fail, and now there is a very good chance that if we start going up, you re-enter yesterday's profile and you can accelerate, because all these shorts that push the market in the morning and in the midday, they have to bail if this happens, and that's exactly what happened. You had a little bit of a short squeeze, so we had a late spike in the session, and the overall attempt for the day to break from the 3-day balance range was rejected. Now notice that you create a double distribution at the top, but it's also important to note that it stopped right at yesterday's halfback, and that 1 tick separation that you have for the 2 distributions, it's still there. So now what you have is you have a potential daily excess. You have 2 distributions with a late spike. The high is poor because it has no excess, is weak because it matches, is within 1 tick of Monday's halfback, but you also have a 1 tick separation. So all those data points suggest that now the odds are good that you rotate back up to the upper side of the range. Let's see what happens. The focus for tomorrow is obviously on assessing continuation from this late spike with acceptance within or above, increasing further the odds of testing the 2990 area. What would the node change to the downside? Well, if you start getting acceptance, I would say below today's halfback, which is at 68.50. If you start getting acceptance here, probably you are challenging this weak structure. But that's the focus for the morning. I wouldn't pay too much attention to the closure of the double distribution because it happened very late. So I would take just the spike from the mid profile area towards the top. That's my focus for the moment. If we start getting acceptance within or above, is positive. Below, that means that spike has been rejected, and probably we will target this area.